everything to the males. Systems will have more of you from the male perspective than the woman perspective.
In our tech industry, women are blazing trails. Gender becomes irrelevant if you're absolutely good at what you do.
You're not disadvantaged because of your gender. You're not disadvantaged because of your age. If anything, I think it is your superpower. You are young and you are able to learn very fast and adapt really quickly. So if you just take out these limitations, people are going to give you opportunities.
Good evening. I think saying Happy Women's Day is quite in order. And hopefully you had a blessed, wonderful day. I normally say, saying Happy Women's Day one day, it must be a Women's Day 365 days. You are our mothers, you are our sisters, you are our aunts, and you are the guys that make sure that things happen. Just to give context, we are saying that can you imagine a gender equal world? A world free of bias, stereotypes, and discrimination. A world that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. A world where difference is valued and celebrated. Together, we can forge women's equality. Collectively, we can all break the bias. Celebrate women's achievements. There's lots of women that have achieved. I know there is talks, there is debates that it's not as bad as it looks. There are women that have been very fortunate, that have had supportive infrastructure or support from the other gender, which is male gender. There are women that have been very unfortunate in different sectors, not necessarily in the telco space. So question is, what do we do to assist or make changes so that it's a uniform experience for all women right across the world? Let's raise awareness against bias and take action for equality. And on that note, Dr. Noluntu Mpekwa, welcome to the studio. Welcome to Paita platform. Welcome, Miss Malisi Ndlovu or Mashego.
So you're going to make my two surnames fight with each other. I think Ndlovu is fine.
So the other one, there's a Prof.
Hi, Prof.
Prof.
Hi, Helen too. Hi, girls.
How are you? Welcome.
I'm good. Yeah, thank you. We, the load shedding is actually hitting us hard, but it's okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
Prof.
Yes.
I think for Prof, I've got Dr. Noluntu Mpekwa. She's with CSIR. Then we've got Miss Malise Ndlovu. She is with TIA. And Prof. Ngonde is with CPUT, Cape Peninsula Technology University. Me, I'm with PITA. And Prof is also advisor to PITA. She's been an advisor to PITA for over a year. She's one of the first advisors to join the PITA advisory board. So we really pride ourselves by having leadership like Prof and many other sisters that we've got within the PITA stable. Welcome this evening. I'm sure it doesn't matter who starts. We'll throw the dice and say who starts this evening. Maybe let's start with with Dr. Noluntu Mbekwa.
I was actually going to say I was here first, so I must.
that I remembered.
Good. That's really good. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Sonwabo, for inviting me and inviting us to be here. Of course, this is quite a very important topic. So I'll get straight to my presentation. As you've said, I am Noluntu Mbekwa. I part of the Information and Cybersecurity Center within CSIR. So today, my presentation, because I'm within the cyberspace, I think it would be very important for me to start with a very brief explanation what is cybersecurity, and more importantly, the importance of women participating in this field. And secondly, I will also touch on the center itself, the Information and Cybersecurity Center within CSIR. And then I will also touch on the challenges that are faced by women in STEM and some of the efforts within CSIR to actually empower women and to change the status quo. So cybersecurity is an important aspect in the fourth industrial revolution. As the security of information within the cyberspace has become more crucial. Now, what is called the 4IR, of course, it encompasses the digitization and the automation of systems and processes. This culminates into more information being created and being made available in the connected world. Now, cybersecurity involves securing the data, the physical devices, as well as the different transmissions that are used in the technology age. Now, thus safeguarding integrity of information. So there is a tremendous contribution that women are making in the ICT space, particularly in the cyberspace. So just like technology is here to stay, cyber security is also here to stay. There will always be a need for improved algorithms, improved techniques in detecting threats. So there will always be an opportunity to come up with something new that people can use to actually protect their data and information, thus creating a platform for women to participate in the expansion and the improvement of cybersecurity as an ICT discipline. Now, coming straight to what I do, my center is, I've promised, the Information and Cybersecurity Center. This is the structure. Of course, this is not nice, but we're working on it. We're being led by a man, Dr. Jabu Mtweni. But I want to say that this center was established by CSIR, which focuses on research, development, innovation of homegrown cybersecurity, information security, as well as identity management solutions to securely identify, protect people and systems against vulnerabilities, threats, and risks in the digital realm. This is, of course, aligned to the National Cybersecurity Program. We do this by supporting government as well as private sector. Now, the Information and Cybersecurity Center consists of what we call research groups. Hence, in front of you in this structure, you see the four leaders at the bottom. We call them the research group leaders. Now, in the research groups areas, this is where capabilities are being explored. This is where projects are being implemented and intense research takes place. So as much as the center manager is a male, the decision-making is happening at the lower ground. The actual work that is happening and the leading is happening at the lower ground. So I'm happy to say, in this structure that is in front of you, 4 of the managers that are supporting the center manager, 3 of them are females. I think that is quite good. And as CSIR, we are priding ourselves in the fact that we are supporting women and also providing them the space to be the managers and decision makers. Now, coming to the numbers. Still in the Information and Cybersecurity Center, the total staff base is 71. This includes our permanent staff members, which are about 60, as well as our interns, which we take pride in because they become part of the team, as well as wheel trainees that we take from CPUT, for example, TUT, and many other universities that we are collaborating with. From that 71 staff base that we have, we are still working on this. 38% are females, which is quite a low number. 62% are males. But we say this because we know where we stand, we know our goals, and we know where we want to get to, so that we are intentional when we are making decisions. Part of the numbers is that staff with PhDs, out of the 71, we have 11 staff members with PhDs. Out of the 11, 6 are females and 5 are males, which is good. And we keep on supporting our staff members, whether they're doing their master's and PhD, we support them as much as possible. Now, in terms of, I've mentioned this, in terms of management posts, 3 are females and 2 are males, which is quite great. And we are happy with that. And now, as I've promised, we move to challenges. These challenges that I've picked up as we are making decisions as part of management, we collected internally issues, externally, as well as issues that we've picked up that were experienced by women within STEM. So these challenges, we picked only these 5 that we can focus on as part of management in the center. Now, the challenges include women are facing persistent high levels of poverty, inequality, and underemployment. Hence, when we are employing, we have intentions to employ mostly females who are capable, women that we can develop, and women that we can train into what we want to see in the future. Secondly, women in sub-Saharan Africa earn 30% less than men. This is the fight that we still are battling with, because there are challenges sometimes in sharing what people are earning and having this view when having discussions. But when they come to our table, it's things that we are willing to discuss and work on. The third challenge is that in South Africa, women report doing 3 times as much unpaid care and domestic work than men, meaning that most of us are mothers, most of us are aunts, and most of us are wives. So meaning after 5 o'clock or 4:30, we come back home, we still have a long list of activities that we need to do, homework, etc. Whereas our counterparts, the males in the same position as me, they go home, they rest, and tomorrow they are ready to face another day, which is totally different. And we need to look at this in a different manner when we are looking at women. And then the fourth point challenge is that women are few or absent in key sectors of the economy, including the STEM. So women are increasing a little bit, but the change is quite slow and it's not moving at a pace that one would like it to see it. And then limited participation of women in leadership positions. I'm happy to say, as part of CSIR as a center, we take this very seriously. We ensure that we have women participating in leadership positions and in particularly positions that allowing women to make decisions. And then you would ask, where to from here? So I've mentioned all these challenges, but we are intentional at CSIR. We are intentional in the Information and Cybersecurity Center. So one of the things that we have done at the beginning of the financial year is to set out goals and targets on gender equality. And we, as part of our performance, to actually also evaluate the progress and see how far we are going. So the first one of the intentions or the activities to actually improve on the status quo is extended maternity leave that we offer to our female colleagues. Also looking into policies, how are they assisting our women, as well as the fact that they have this extended work that they do when they get home. For instance, we have a work from home policy that allows them, should they have the necessary resources, they can still work 8 up until 5 at home, just like anyone else in the office. 3, we provide training and professional development so that we ensure that when these women take up these positions, they are ready to do so. Another one that we do is to breaking the gender roles and stereotypes. There's this tendency that there are certain positions within ICT, within cybersecurity, that are specific for women. The women cannot be technical, but maybe they can do, sit and do research and theoretical work, not technical. So we are starting to break those gender roles and the stereotypes that go with it. Another one is women empowerment committees and forums. We support these committees and forums as women start to engage with each other. They start supporting each other and then pave way moving forward, more especially for the young girls that are joining the industry. Another one is counseling for our women. It is important, more especially now we have just experienced the pandemic. People are having challenges. Counseling, more especially for working moms. How do you deal with your kids when you are working from home, when you are on Teams? How do you talk to them, etc.? These things, we do have sessions for them, and women do attend and learn a lot from these sessions. Safe working conditions and protection, as well as our stance in terms of no gender bias discrimination within the workspace. To conclude my presentation today is to say, in the cyber and ICT space, women must learn to work together, to support each other, and to be each other's keepers. Now we imagine a gender equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes, and any kind of discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mpegwa. Thank you very much. I think Prof will be the last. Prof, how's your battery? Ms. Ndlovu, can I plead with you and take Prof and see that when a cell phone battery goes dead, at least she has talked.
All right. Most welcome.
Prof,
I think he's on mute.
Prof? Yeah, no. Let's see. Prof?
I can hear you. You can't hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay, I am saying Ms. Ndlovu can talk. My battery is full.
Oh, great.
You've connected with 2 devices.
Let me check. But my laptop is not connected. Okay, let me try and...
Okay, let's continue. Let's continue. Memandlov.
Mr. Sonwabo.
Good evening.
Greetings again.
Yes, let's continue with this very important topic on breaking the bias or breaking the stereotype. Let's hear from your perspective. How have you engaged in the different ecosystems or the major ecosystem in the country and worldwide? I know that you are also well traveled, you've been overseas and you've done lots of things. What has been your experience as growing up and up to where you are now with all these challenges that are being highlighted that lots of women are facing?
Oh, greetings again, especially to the viewers. And thank you again for the invite to participate in this webinar. My name is Malise Brenda Ndlovu. As you've mentioned, my maiden name being Mashiro. I am also well trained within the ICT space, with currently focusing on innovation and commercialization. I'm graduated from several universities. I think I was just trying to find a gene all over the place. I started at University of Johannesburg, and then I went to Tshwane University, then also Durban University, and then I proceeded to the University of South Africa, and now gravitating towards Wits. So just trying to find family all over the place, but still within the ICT domain. And by work, I am employed at the Technology Innovation Agency as a senior business development manager who is focusing on supporting the commercialization of innovation investments that the Technology Innovation Agency invests in on behalf of the state. I'll just give a brief overview of who TIA is, but not in depth. And I'll walk through my presentation because it's more or less around one reflecting and celebrating women on this day, and also giving awareness within the industry that I'm well trained in. So the agency in itself, it's an arm of the state that is nested within the Department of Science and Technology, Innovation, DSI, previously DST, which is Science and Technology. And our mandate is basically to support, starting with unearthing intellectual property from all our knowledge domain resources in the country. So be it your universities, be it your science council, and even small enterprises, so all over the ecosystem. When we come across innovation that has real value for the country, we invest in that innovation, and we invest in the technology development of that innovation, and support the growth towards commercialization, and end up with products in the marketplace. It's a complex space to be in, because you have to then wear different hats where you're supporting um, innovations from all over the show. And innovation doesn't follow a linear approach. It's a crazy world where things happen. There's all kinds of disruptions that are disrupting the markets, and there's also endeavors where you have to nurture the innovation from the processes where the sources are more nascent and not even too aware of the spaces they are in, and you have to guide them while you're also investing, and make sure that the end goal is to have products diffused in the marketplace and taking up market shares where they can funnel back into our country's GDP. But for today's topic, my reflection is around, women building competencies and values that promote self-sufficiency. It's basically around where one grows into realizing that it really takes a community for anybody to be able to deliver value in any space that they are at. So my choice to try and shift a little bit from the ICT domain that I'm too passionate about is basically because day to day I support all the sectors in this country. I support innovations from any other sector as long as they engage with us and we derive value out of that. And the role of women in this space, be it innovation, I'm actually going to even talk about life in itself. The role of women in everything that we do in this life is unquestionable. So for me to sit here, I'm not even going to debate it. It's a conversation that has been going on for far too long, and we have come to a place where we know who we are as women and we know what value we bring to society at large. So my stance on this topic that I've chosen today is basically around, us as women being the driving forces around creating a community of capable beings that will be able to, foster any other change that we want in our daily lives, in our industry sectors, and even in our social movements. If I have to get a little bit philosophical for some reason, I can say if you look at how we grow, and there's a life cycle of knowledge in our processes of growth. You've got learning, you've got teaching, you've got mentoring. So my stance on that is that learning begins at home. And if it begins at home where a child is young, they would learn the culture and everything they're exposed to from the person that gave birth to them. And luckily, that person would have a supporting structure, be it the parents and siblings, to be able to expose them to their immediate environment. And from that environment, this is where we have the power to impart what we want to build within that child, be it a young girl or a young boy. But then along the lines, you have to then now hand over the baton to educators that have to come, and they are qualified to impart curriculum based knowledge that are starting the education journey of your child. But within that, we don't hand over, or rather relinquish our role as parents and mothers to allow that child to grow out of sight. We maintain that. So this is more or less the superpower that we have as women, that we actually supplement the teachers by being there and also making sure that our values and what we would like to have imparted onto our children is still maintained while they are even now exploring the world in bigger spheres. But then to move over from there, you have to go into the mentorship space where now we have to unlock more opportunities for growth and learning, where we must allow within our immediate circles and within those trusted allies, networks, and affiliates that we endeavor in this life. We have to make sure that we expose the positive influence unto our children within our spaces. And in all of this, what we are doing, we are building a capable nation, and we're building a capable, value based leaders of tomorrow. So our role has already inherently started way before we even signed up and say, I would like to be a positive influence onto someone. So by the time one gets into industry, all they know is that they need to then tap into the competency part of things and not have to question their gender as to what is it that they can do. Because you already have been built along the way to know who you are, and what is your role in the spaces that you belong in. So the competency part of things, I will touch on innovation. Still a blanket umbrella, not separating the sectors. The part where when you are now competent in, and well trained and knowledgeable in what you're doing, you are able to see opportunities even where problems exist. So, in my world of innovation, innovation can be spun out of challenges where there's solution that fixes those challenges that are daily challenges in society and industry, or either new opportunities where people have not yet thought about how to endeavor this process, but you've had that eureka aha moment that I can do it better than this, and this is my intellectual capital that I want to make money out of. So you then push for that process to continue, or you rather say, well, in this case, I would like to solve societal problems in this instance, and then this is the new ways that I would want to go about it. It takes a very critical person, critical thinking person, to be able to then come up with solutions where even problems have not been yet identified, or where problems exist and the solution are still within the same embedded community. We really don't have to go out there and buy things we don't need. We as a society and we as women, we have had the power and we still have the power to be able to enact for that to happen in our daily lives and to diffuse it. The part where we need an entire ecosystem that is all round genders is where we need to work together to make sure that when we pull in resources in order to fix any particular problem of value-based opportunity that we find out, we need to know who to reach out to, and we need to know that those people will rise up to the occasion. So, and I'll just like to then make a case study of Miss Serena Williams. I think we are well aware of her. She's a highly celebrated black young mother and a superstar within the sports scenery. But I hope some of our audiences are aware that this young lady runs an early stage venture fund. So this venture fund funds upcoming technologies that are in the innovation space, or let me just say disrupting startups. So some industries being fintech, and my favorite being education tech. So we just call it ed tech for short term. So this is the power of how we can see one using their position of influence, but also being empowered enough to say, I can pull in enough resources and run a venture fund to empower others and make sure that they can grow in industry while I make money in the space. So I was very impressed to see her spreading her horizons and her capabilities to venture into the new ore. If we have to be quite factual around the knowledge-based economies that we are living in, the fourth industrial revolution, and the current realities that we have, the information and knowledge space is our real ore because it transforms all the other industries. If I have to even touch on the digital aspect of it and mention in terms of ICT, then being the converging industry that makes sure that all the other industries are able to participate in the global economy. But through this, what inspires us is this young lady that is able to grow and that has been sharpened through her father identifying a talent that was so hidden that it took paternal or parental instinct for one to say my children have this talent and I'm going to focus on sharpening that and making sure that I can train them. And both parents were present, making sure that they support by giving both, you've got your masculine energy in a child, you've got your feminine energy in your child, but at the end of the day, you're enacting this very powerful young lady that is able to impact so many people's life. So in conclusion, our host and our audience, it's more or less around us women. We know there's problems, we know there's challenges, and I'm glad that my colleague Dr. Nolundu took us through real facts where we're not talking about Google information, but we're talking about the current challenges that we're facing as women in industry, and the many barriers and yet the many breakthroughs that we are still making and strides in this industry. Having said that, what we need to do as women, I would put it forward to my colleagues and many other women out there, is to be very deliberate about what we want to happen within our spaces of influence, starting with our children, and then pushing forward to children that we can get access to. If we have the time, we have to be very deliberate around building strong ecosystems and making sure that these ecosystems, they are pushing women forward to be industry champions, to be teachers, and to be community and political leadership. Because in that way, we are able to say that we won't have to have the comparison conversation. It will be at a part where we know that we as women, we have roped in all our natural superpowers, and we've given it enough time and effort and energy and resources and influence to make sure that we imparting what we have onto the next generation of leaders that we want to cultivate. So I will just wrap up my presentation around that, making sure that we building women that have hard competencies, that have values that can promote self-sufficiency. And the benefit of where we are living now in terms of time and space, we are living in a digital era. So when you have hard competency and digital skills, you can literally work from anywhere in the world without having to uproot your life and your children, overnight to be. So you will have opportunity to untap the global economy and be part of participating that in ways of business, in ways of making sure that you're disrupting existing markets, and in ways of being a very valuable asset in any organization that you want to join in. So that's the message that I would like to drive today. And I do thank you for the opportunity to be part of this webinar. Thanks again, our host.
Thank you, Ms. Ndlovu. Well said. I understand. I've got one or two questions, but I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, we will deal with the question matter or issue at the end. I think let's give Prof an opportunity to talk to us and the listeners. I think electricity is coming back. I see people connecting.
Yeah, electricity is actually coming back now. Okay.
Yes. Good evening, Prof. Are
Good.
you
Good.
are you
Yes,
going to
I'm
talk
here.
over your presentation?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Okay, thank you. I just want to see if I can share my slide.
It's open on your side. Then you can just say share screen.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. Or let me open it first. Let me share the screen. I've got so many things on my screen. I hope I'm not going to share other things.
No,
No, the screen is sharing this one.
we will
No,
close our eyes when we see other things.
let me open the presentation then. But now it's taking this let me share the slides better.
Once you're in a sharing mode, you won't see
Computer.
yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to share it on my as a presentation because okay, let me open it. And then can you see the presentation then?
Not yet. It has not come
Not
through.
yet. I don't know. Let me see. Share my screen.
Then click on the screen. Then
Yes,
open.
actually screen sharing works because I've got two monitors. Well, let me see this one. Let me try the two monitors, share the screen. But it does not share my presentation, it's sharing our screen.
Then you sharing you've got two
See?
screens. Maybe you're sharing the
Okay,
other screen.
yeah, I think so. I've got so many things here. I'm trying to open this one. Presentation. Okay, if it does not want to share, because it's open.
You know what's the interesting thing, Prof? We all know that we're not supposed to have lots of things on our screen, but we all got our laptops full. The screen is full.
The thing is, it depends on what you've been doing the whole day. And why is it not sharing the the presentation. It's still sharing our screen. Let me share the window. I think I'm getting it now. Share. Can you see it?
Something is
You're
coming.
supposed to see. Yes. Are you able
Yes,
to
I've
see the
got it. We've
presentation
got
now?
it. Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, thank you. Good colleagues, thank you for the invitation, Sonwabo, and Ndlovu and Luntu, the Tampekwa. My presentation, I just thought of how can we really bridge the biasness and try to bring in women in a computing space, and we try to make sure that they participate and we bring in inclusiveness when it comes to nurturing our young girls. And then I thought of you know what, we cannot bring in digital dignity within the digital space if we do not understand what is the future orientated rules and enforcement when it comes to dignity. And we're looking into empowered individuals, because if we're talking about digital transformation, we're talking about fourth industrial revolution, and we do not have empowered individuals within our spaces. When I'm talking about our spaces, even in environment, we're talking about at home. What is it that we're talking about at home when it comes to fourth industrial revolution? How do we simplify it such that for a young girl, they understand the dignity of their dignity when they are in a digital space, whereby they cannot reveal things that they are not supposed to reveal, whereby they can also try and make sure that when they cyber or phishing or whatever thing that is attracting them, that is going to impact them negatively, they are aware of that. And we want to get in the communities that are accountable and controllers of their environment and their spaces, especially when they are in a cyber environment, because there is ethics. Cybersecurity, Noluntu has indicated and mentioned that. But we've got dignity and ethics that we need to embrace in a digital space, whereby we definitely know how we can benefit from systems instead of us compromising ourselves. But in a same space, we need to look into innovative privacy and engineering, where we are able to say, I'm using my technology and I'm using it to my benefit, but I do not contravene my dignity. At the very same time, I do not compromise my ethical values because I'm on the digital space. And how can I then use the digital space to the benefit of my society, to the benefit of my community, and also my work environment? I think that's where we need to start now, because if you look and you see what's happening in a digital space, young girls are actually, the human trafficking is taking place in the cyberspace. The bullying is taking place in the cyberspace. But if we integrate dignity and we empower our young girls and actually our communities, our women at large, even old women, they are bullied, they are taken advantage, they do not know how to secure their space when they are in a digital space. We definitely need to look into that and make sure that we're developing communities that are fully aware and communities that understand what is digital space and what are the benefits of the digital space and how they can handle digital space effectively. So, but when you look at the defining the actual digital space, the dignity of in digital space, I was impressed when I find this quote that I've captured here, that already the EU is looking at the collision when it comes to introducing the digital dignity within the environment, especially in the global world, where they want to look at how people actually upholding the rights in digital space and resisting harmful uses of technology. Technology can be very much beneficial to us. It can help us to move the mountains, but we need to uphold the rights and dignity as we are busy working on the digital space. But how are we then going to make sure that we resist the harmful use of the digital space? How do we use it into to maximize our capabilities or our delivery in our environment? But you know what attracted me in this particular picture? As much as we're looking at the global world in terms of collision when it comes to digital dignity, to break down the biasness and the barriers in the space, but you can see that still women are seen as the followers in the space, in a computing space. And you can also check the representation of the women in this space. Then it made me to think, what is it that we need to do to make sure that we break these barriers? What are we in an institution of higher learning? I'm in higher education. You will see in a class in computing class, you find out that, especially in programming, you'll find 5 girls and you find 45 boys. How are we going to bridge that gap? That is why you even see in this picture the representation of the collagen, the digital dignity collagen. You will see we've got only one woman and we've got men. And you can see the men are actually leading the process. When are we going to bridge the barriers whereby the women is going to be in front now, no longer be at the back? Where we're going to make sure that the women representation is actually increasing in our digital space in terms of bridging the biasness and also the barriers within the space. We need to rethink how we position ourselves and we position our young girls in a digital environment, and actually also instilling the character of dignity as they learn about the digital space, so that they can benefit out of the digital space. They do not become the third party where they are just consumers, but they cannot be the leaders within the digital space. You know, when you check the adverts, you always see the woman being an object of advertising, and then all the guys are managers driving around trying to coordinate and managing. We need to change that environment. We need to change this space and take the women to the front, or we need to let our young girls that they've got potential. They don't have to follow in this space. Sorry, it's because this is the women's today's day is it's a International Women's Day, and I celebrate the women that walked before us, like the Lovelace, those programmers that they did a great job to represent the women. But we talk about digital dignity, but we talk about digital connectiveness. When you look at the digital connectiveness, there are quite a number of elements and components. What Ms. Ndlovu and Dr. Mpegwa has indicated, you can find them in this space. When we talk about digital connectiveness and we look at security component, but we can also look into the digital connectiveness when we look at development and empowering and reaping the benefit of using the technology. But how can we do it? And as we look in this picture, it has the element of homes, it has the element of work environment, it has an element of communication, it has an element of access, it has an element of security, it has all the elements that enable us to live our lives, meaning that the digital connectiveness, it's something that drives everything in our day-to-day lives. But how do we then place ourselves in all these nodes of the digital connectiveness? And then how do we break the barriers when it comes to digital connectiveness within this particular space? The way that we can do that is to really look into inclusiveness in the digital world by embracing dignity. We need to understand what is around us when it comes to people. We need to understand how do we how do we bring in the social components or social concepts within our digital space so that we do not treat people as machines, but we treat people with dignity within the digital space. And that's what is actually happening for our young girls when they're in digital space, where anyone can say anything. If we can follow some cases and you realize these cases are actually compromising the women, you find out the case has a component of a man and has a component of a woman. But the women becomes a victim and attacked in a cyberspace. Just to give a typical example, we are following a case of the girl at WSU who received money on her account. But we do not hear anything about other people that transacted money. We do not hear anything. We hear all negative news that goes into that particular girl. How are we going to bring in dignity now for women and young girls within the digital space? How do they respond when they get some transactions that they're not expected to get within that space? And then now, when we create an environment of dignity within the digital world, that is when we'll be able to empower our young girls so that when they get into the digital space, they know they are capable as individuals, they know they are able to deliver. And that, if you look into this slide, it's just full of social concepts and social components. How do we make sure that when we're in digital space, we bridge the barriers of treating people as machines, but we treat people as people. We give them the dignity that they want. We help them where they need help. We respect them where they need respect. You treat them as people, and we collaborate where we need to collaborate. But having said that, it cannot just jump in and get to our young girls or women's heart. We need to have women breastfeed in the fourth industrial revolution age. How do we do that? How can we make sure that the women are actually well placed in the 4IR age? We need the first thing that we need to do is endangering 4IR presence in our communities. Ms. Ndlovu has indicated that she said we need mentoring. We need to look into our young girls. We need to look into our grandmothers. We need to look to our aunts in the communities. How do we simplify 4IR for basic education at home, learn and work from home, even at school? How do we make sure that coding, they understand the meaning of coding at a very early age? How do we transform our stereotypes of having a toy for girls and a toy for a boy? When are we going to start to place our girls such that fourth industrial revolution to them becomes a reality? When they need to clean the house, how do they relate to fourth industrial revolution when they are cleaning their houses at home? When they go to school, when they prepare for whatever they prepare, we need to simplify it. We need to take it to the level of communities. We need to be visible and make sure that we integrate the 4IR in our day-to-day lives. And we have to view our 4IR as means to work smart, not as means to take our jobs or whatever the tag that we will give to the fourth industrial revolution. But as we are busy making sure that our young girls or the women specifically are able to break through the biasness and the barriers that are taking place in the digital world, we need to position our young girls for the future work in computing. Like instill power of self-realization. We have to stop telling our young girls that they are competitors to their brothers. The thing that we need to tell them is to tell them that they are able as individuals. They can work as equally as their brothers when it comes to programming in a computing space. They can develop a robot as equally as the brother. We need to establish the AI forums where we have open discussions, We talk about reality, and we talk about challenges and solutions that the artificial intelligence is bringing. Remember, we talk about indigenous knowledge, artificial intelligence, it talk about generating data, coming up with solution using AI. We need to tell them the simplest way of saying you are able to clean up your recycling bottles. Use the AI concept to make sure that you market yourself, to make sure that you communicate with the external world. We need to adopt a girl, create one-on-one gig spaces where we are able to say, I am here, I'm going to hold your hand. What is it that you want to do? Let us code together. Let us work with that small code, how to make a cup of coffee, how to change a tire. You know, such things that are going to relate to them. We need to establish collaborations and mentorship. I'm actually very much interested on this one, especially that Nisindlovu mentioned this, I think, more than 5 times in her presentation. How do we go about when we leave this discussion as women and our host to collaborate to make sure that we open the gig space for women, for young women, to empower them, to see where we can source funding. I know, fortunately, the 2 ladies are in the space where they can have funding for such projects. Then how do we work together as women in a computing space to make sure that we reach out to these communities and we work with our PACTA as a source of as an entity or an association that has interest at heart for empowering young women and our empowering communities when it comes to the computing space. We need to create spaces for self-realization in the computing space, understand the trends and challenges, and also have a personal development. When there is, I always say to my colleagues, even at work, do not wait for the opportunity to present itself. Be ready for the opportunity. We have to prepare our ladies or our young girls for personal development so that when the opportunity presents itself, they are ready to grab that particular opportunity. And I love this one, the AI technopreneurship innovation. How do we make sure that we embrace the benefits of IoT to improve business processes for different stakeholders? If there is that young girl that has an Apple tree at home, how do we translate that into technopreneurship? How do we make sure that we use AI, we use IoT to make sure that they are able to present the game changer within their environment? How do we develop solutions for diverse businesses? You will find out there is a lot there that can be presented by the young girls. Young girls can do wonders, but how do we reach out, present AI in terms of technopreneurship for innovation to make sure that they understand how they can market their stuff, how can they communicate with the outside world, how can they present themselves in a better way, how do we assess education at a very early stages as the childhood education. How do we use simulation to present the benefits of fourth industrial revolution and communicate and also manage our data? But in terms of digital transformation, how do we train each other? By adopting the blockchain model. You know, I always say people are having stokvel. They trust people with their money. They're using now what is this cryptocurrency. People that do
Yes.
not know. But why don't we adopt the very same strategy in empowering communities when it comes to computing? We establish a chain of gigs, adopt a strategy of not leaving anyone behind, and embrace one village, one city, our global community project, where we train one or two, they train theirs, and the community becomes the small gig, the village of gigs in terms of what they are doing in terms of the fourth industrial revolution. We need to take advantage of AI for indigenous knowledge, where we code and we communicate the information so that our children and our grandchildren will understand what has been happening in our environment. How do our African brothers and sisters and our forefathers use technology, the kind of technology that they were using to solve problems, and then how they can translate it now to translate it to business so that they can benefit from the IP of their grandfathers. Oh, yes. And yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Prof. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Prof, it's your slides were not moving, but the content you've delivered, the content we've listened and we understood. We were sabotaged by electricity, but
Yes.
I'll reconsider having the same lineup one of these days and invite you when they say the electricity has been sorted. A lot has been said, and out of what Ms. Ndlovu have said and what you've said, Prof, and what Dr. Mpego has said, we can see the imbalances, the inequalities that still exist. Yes, CSIR is trying very hard. You've got 38 women out of 62 boys and men. You talk about numbers where you've got 5 out of 40 or something like that. During the day, there is a lady that delivered a talk as well, that at a workplace, out of a team of 5, she's the only woman. The 4 is men. So there's still this inequality. Whether the inequality is caused by previous stereotypes that were there that we're trying to work out, or bias that still exists depending on the communities that we're talking about. Policy is still an important factor by listening through different discussions that we've had now. In CSIR environment, the policy has been structured such that it favors women, and they understands that women and guys and men have got different environments. Women after work, they still become other services that they need to offer to their children. And I think listening to Ms. Ndlovu, there are environments where men have been really supportive. It's a fact. There are environments where men have totally been hopeless. And we can't use one brush and it fits everywhere. But what do we do to change these environments? And the question that I was laughing and saying I'm going to ask you, in an ideal environment that few people live in, you still have children or girl child that is growing up in the rural areas. Most rural areas, it is really bad. Most African countries that I'm dealing with, women are still second or third class citizens. It's a fact. How do we change this? How do we influence the change of this particular behavior or treatment that women are receiving? Yes, mentorship is good, but mentorship in an environment that women are third-class citizens, there's no mentorship. It can't happen. It will be pockets of change that are going to be happening. How do we do this thing so that fast forward 5 years down from now, we're talking about different things. We're dealing with different challenges, not what we're dealing with today. Prof is talking about dignity in the digital space, ethics in the digital space, but how do we teach children or young girls that are growing up that they must apply CIA, which is your confidentiality, integrity, and availability? And how do we teach them? And I don't have these answers. How do we teach them that they must not overshare? These days you go to Facebook, you go to all these platforms, you see girls doing things that in the olden days when we didn't have the platforms, they were not done. Okay? Someone that I was talking to during the day said to me, We need to teach these young girls that use the digital space as much as you would use a wall. Would you take an indecent picture and put it on the wall? But if you can't, then why do you put it on the digital space? I don't know. Dr. Mpeo, are we still here? Miss
Yes, we
Ndlovu,
are, but we are on mute.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, we are
remove
still
mute.
here.
We're having
Mhm.
conversation, remove mute. So how do we deal with these things? Yes, I've said well and good. We're talking about all these ethics. We're talking about all the things that we're talking about. But how do we get it to the grassroots? How do we get all these things to be done differently?
I can give a fit response to not all of the reflections that you've mentioned, but I can just pick one that I can
Pick
give a
one.
response to allow my colleagues to then unpack further on perspectives that they can also
Mm,
address. When it comes to the third citizen and disempowered women situation that we have across our continent and other regions such as MENA and the rest of the world, of course, it's a global issue. But
mm,
I've had the privilege of working for a, a, a multinational that came up with this brilliant program that was focusing on purely on transformation, but within the ICT space because they were an ICT solutions provider. And one
mm,
of the key learnings that I took from that program, I would just have to be comfortable enough to mention it. It was called SAP for uh, uh, Skills for Africa. So
yes.
this is a program that was traveling throughout the African region, imparting scarce skills that uh, our communities and graduates could not afford. For example, taking someone that has graduated from university and imparting them with 100,000 rands roughly worth of training for free. But that model, somebody has to subsidize it. So the key
Mm,
learning around this, I'm not talking about the program per se, but I'm talking about the human interaction. In each and every country that we traveled through this continent, the one thing that came out was government deliberately choosing to be part of driving the change towards their citizens. So allowing private companies to also partake to say, we as government, we can create partial jobs here, but then the number is too low. Come into this program where you will also then offer these graduates pa- uh, 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 placements, real jobs, real salaries as soon as they are trained. And it takes a lot of leadership that has to come to a table and agree in hindsight, away from the masses, away from the cameras, away from all these things that we see when people are cutting ribbons, if I have to be quite controversial. It takes
mm,
real conversations that
mm,
involves real money and real investments and signing of things on paper to contractually make sure that you're locking in this conversation and it becomes reality to change, if I have to say, the African child's lives. So by the time we interact with the actual recipients of that program, we had already made sure that the conversations are done and sold, and we know that whomever we will engage with, we will touch their life. So it's one part of making sure that one is deliberate in going to the marginalized communities and saying, this is what we want to drive amongst our people. This is the type of skills that we need to for the betterment of our communities. And you know what? I will then touch on what Prof has mentioned around, the AI programs that are in this space. It can be any other program outside the program that I've just mentioned, which was skills development, but also job creation. You can come with a program that, the best thing about young children, they grow up in a world where their brains are sponges, limitless. All they need to do is access to that critical information for them to absorb. And somebody has to come through with a specialized program that I know that I wouldn't be qualified to do, that trains children in critical thinking, for them to be able to see that, okay, this is what I'm learning from my grandmother. I would like to use IKS, for example, indigenous knowledge systems. The knowledge systems that we have as African people lies within us. It's within us. The knowledge is imparted from our generations, from generation to generation, and there will be breaks and cuts and knowledge blackout if we don't perpetuate that, but create modern systems for that knowledge to diffuse all the way to the next generation. So, for a child to be able to learn what they can learn from their great grandparents and their neighboring communities and their neighboring ecosystem, being, let's say, the plants, the herbs, and things that they know they can use to survive, but also having digital skills for them to be aware. This is how I can codify this knowledge into something that then exists in digital form. The AI element becomes a very easy thing to do because it's an algorithm that is similar to a child that just absorbs what is being given into and applies patterns around what is being taught, and to diffuse it to someone who's too busy to learn the basics, to say, give me the insights on what I need to know around these parameters. So one of the things that I had mentioned was that the key word being deliberate, it really needs a lot of effort, it really needs a lot of investments, and it needs time and people that have convictions on what they want to do. We have gone through way past an era of um doing programs for the sake of doing programs. The world is not patient. The world, the economic world is not kind, it's very brutal. And the more you can't keep up to it, the more it leaves you behind. So the more you remain a third and fourth and even fifth grade citizen, because you have been bypassed by that era of knowledge that needed to happen at the very time that it needed to happen, even if it's fast paced. But we need to have real leaders that can say, of all the things that we want to do, I want to exist to deliberately make sure that at the grassroots level, this is what I want to impart. It's not a one man's job. We are all aware of it. In our all fears that we belong into, we know that it's not a one man's job. But like I'm saying, these type of interventions, they happen far, far away from the ribbon cutting and the cameras. That's just the end thing. The real hard work, the heavy lifting, have to happen in rooms and in community cooperatives and getting buy-in to say, when we do this, you also need to make parents aware why they do that. One of the fondest memories that I have of my parents was, when you go through, I explained to them, I said, mother, I don't think my math teacher is that smart. And I said, my classmate is smarter than my math teacher. He just refers to a page in the textbook, and that's it. So I think I would need to spend more time with this young boy, that he can teach me math, because my end goal is doing better and producing good results for bursaries in metric. This mothership said okay, and there was so much trust around, the age and the interesting phase that one could be at. But it was more around, no, let me build the systems that you would need. You've got a bus and whatever, but I will give you extra allowance for you to travel to this child's home over the weekend and learn and come back knowing that at the end goal it is for your benefit. So there is also a level of educating that one would have to take into to households to say, when we want to do this, it needs time. When it
Yes.
needs time, it needs a revitalization of how the girl child is oriented in the household, and how can they block allow this child to have a certain x amount of time that is just dedicated to their learning, Be it happens in a community forum, we've called them halls or something, school hall, or at the chief's crawl, wherever is a safe space. We don't need to always modernize things and say, government give us a billion rands, we want to build this high tech thing. You can start with what you have. But as soon as people see that there is buy-in there and there is real value and results out of those things, then the big players will come. Even the conversation, the people that originated those type of programs, they are able to have convictions to say, this is what we need, this is the support we need, and we've got data to prove that it works. This is what we've done over X amount of years, or maybe 6 months or whatever, and this is how the children has been empowered in that. And the beauty of it, which is my best favorite, is that when you are doing all of this, you are not just doing for girl children alone. It becomes a community thing. And
Yes.
you have big brothers that have to take these children to whatever location. Safety is an element that needs to. So there is many players that has to come into that space. Industrial psychologists or social welfare employees and service providers. It takes a whole lot of ecosystem. But I'm saying, to wrap it up, it's no joke. It's really no joke. It takes a lot of deliberate and full conviction of why you want to transform someone's life. And the end results are not instant. We live in a world where people expect results overnight, but the sooner we start that, the better, because, like I said, the world does not wait. Over to you, our host.
Deliberate is the keyword. Yes, we had promised that we're going to be here for an hour. With your permission, Prof, is there anything you want to add on my
I think,
comments?
yes, I think Miss Ndlovu captured, actually summarized almost
Yes.
everything. She did. The only thing that I can add is we don't have to start with a big project. That small project of one household, if it means we get into the household, that is actually going to grow to a community, we need to touch the lives that we can reach. And when we touch those lives, they will touch their life, the other people's lives. And we're growing the timber, and it becomes a global exercise. And I like the fact that, because I always say you use what you have. You don't have to go and look for money. I mean, with AI, now when you look at the AI and you look at the blockchain, I'm telling you the truth, you've got everything that can apply those principles at home without even adding a cent, because you've got that. The only thing that you need now is the time and space to make sure that you impact the communities. We talk about coding. We think coding, it's really about computer programming. Kids can code using the indigenous knowledge and translate that into now the real coding when they use their computer. But the prototype, I would say coding through prototype with what they have. But already the skill has been imparted. We definitely need to be, you call it to, I always say you must be purposeful when we want to achieve something. Be purpose driven. This is what I want to get, and this is what I want to achieve. As a conclusion, I want to say we definitely need, as we're talking in this chat, let this channel be the point of connection where we establish collaborations and see how do we do this going forward within little contribution that we can make for our communities, we've got PETA. It's an association which is willing to assess communities. And then how can we make sure that even within our environment, that we take this and we assess them to drive the mandate so that they can reach to as much as possible, because they've got a space and the time to do that.
Thank you,
That's what I
Prof.
would say.
Thank you. I think we need to wrap this thing up. If we need to continue one day, we need to all agree that you will be invited and you will also make yourselves available. I know the time is, I see Noluntu, I think the power is gone. I think on that note, the gig space, I'm appealing to you, Prof. and Ms. Ndlovu. The gig space is what PALTA is looking at. We need to make a difference in the communities. We've tried very hard in the 19 months that we've existed as PALTA. And one of the passion that we have is making a difference to the girl child. The African girl child needs to be supported. So let's engage post this thing. On my side, from PITA side, is to say thank you very much. Highly appreciate the time that you've taken to be here until this time when there's no electricity at different houses in our different respective places. There is one comment. I think the lady says this is powerful. So there's people there who appreciate the discussion. The conversation has been good. I've learned a lot from yourselves, and I must say thank you on behalf of our listeners and future listeners of this recording. God bless. May you have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks again, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you. Ms. Ndlovu, I think you won't mind when we contact you outside of this platform.
Okay, no, happy to engage.
Please hold on one
We need
minute.
more women in tech because there's a whole gender imbalance. When you leave everything to the males, systems will have more of you from the male perspective than the woman perspective.
In our tech industry, women are blazing trails. Gender becomes irrelevant if you're absolutely good at what you do.
You're not disadvantaged because of your gender. You're not disadvantaged because of your age. If anything, I think it is your superpower. You are young and you are able to learn very fast and adapt really quickly.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I see. I thought Dr. Mpekwa is back. Doc, you back?
Yes.
Hi. Okay. Yeah, the electricity came back, and I think some network issues. Then maybe they were still trying to connect.
You back to civilization.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
You back to civilization.
Yeah, I'm a human being as well now. I can start cooking like any other
Welcome
normal.
back to 4IR.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
We were wrapping up, Dr. Mpekwa, and your last parting shot as we go. I had said they must have a blessed rest of the week, and thanked everyone that has been here. Maybe you want to throw one last dice on the table.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much, Sonwabo. And I really enjoyed the conversation and the discussion from my colleagues here. I will surely be in contact with both of them. But I want to emphasize that also it's quite important that we recognize also the positions where we're at the moment. I know it was difficult for most of us to be where we're at in the decisions, in the positions of making decisions. We always had to prove our competency. We always had to compete with our male counterparts to say we can do the job. That's why we're here. So, but now that we are here and we've worked very hard to prove ourselves, let's work very hard to influence the policies. Let's influence the policies that will make life easier for our younger sisters and our kids girls who are coming into the ICT space, even any other space. So it's quite very important that the little that we have an influence over at this point in time, let's try and make sure that it is suitable, it is accommodative for the younger ones that are coming. So I know it's very little, but I think it can go a long way. Thank you so much. I had really fun and I learned a lot in this discussion.
I've also learned a lot, and I learn every engagement, and I think it's very good content and very good base that it creates for PITA. And as Prof have said, these things must not end on these platforms. We need to regroup and we need to make a difference. And I've said to you earlier that without people like yourselves, PITA won't move forward, won't make an impact on the communities that we've set up to make. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Good evening, colleagues. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
We need more women in tech because there's a whole gender imbalance. When you leave everything to the males, systems will have more of you from the male perspective than the woman perspective.
In our tech industry, women are blazing trails. Gender becomes irrelevant if you're absolutely good at what you do.
You're not disadvantaged because of your gender. You're not disadvantaged because of your age. If anything, I think it is your superpower. You are young and you are able to learn very fast and adapt really quickly. So if you just take out these limitations, people are going to give you opportunities.